Can you imagine not having the ability of sight? Can you imagine now you're trying to navigate the world? Now, think about this. You're 40 to 50 years old, and through a variety of reasons, you suddenly go blind. And now you really do have to try and navigate the world. Now, that's pretty scary when you think about it, right? In today's episode, Christine Benninger, she joins me. She's the president and CEO of Guide Dogs for the Blind. Now, let me give you some tidbits of history. There's evidence that dogs have been helping the blind for over 2,000 years. Now, there's another reason why we love our dogs, right? Anyways, after World War I, people started training dogs to help soldiers blinded from the war. Then, in 1942, Guide Dogs for the Blind was founded for veterans returning home from World War II. It all started with their very first dog, a German Shepherd rescued named Blondie. One dog, Blondie. Then, fast forward over 75 years later, and with over 16,000 graduated teams, GDB is now the largest service dog organization in North America. Christine is here to tell us their history, the challenges, and the amazing things they've done, what they're doing now, and what the future looks like. Their story is one that melts your heart. It's something that we should all pay more attention to and perhaps have a better understanding of what these loving animals give to those in need. And as they say, everyone deserves to move through the world safely.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange. Losses and gains, from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Mark Kyle.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the For Real podcast. Today, I've been so excited about this one. My guest is Chris Benninger. Chris, welcome to the show, and I can't wait to get into your whole story. This is going to be a fun one.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm thrilled to be here today.
Not as thrilled as I am, I can tell you that. And when you hear the joke, I know you're going to go, oh my God, what was I doing on this show?
I don't think so. There we go.
Oh, well, the joke hasn't been said yet, so just hold on to that one. Okay, anyways, but let's get into what I thought we would do is, and I do this all the time. I want to talk, I know you're the president right now, but let's get into your background, what brought you today. I have some opinions that I haven't even talked to you about, but I'm curious about it. So tell me, let's talk about you. Let's talk about Chris and then get to, guide dogs and go from there.
Sure. Yeah. So I have a varied background. I started my, work life off in the corporate world. I started as an auditor. After about 3 years, I realized, oh, I didn't want to be an auditor for the rest of my life. Um, went back to business school and got an MBA, and then went to work for Hewlett Packard for actually 15 years. And HP was a fantastic company. I really learned a lot about management. Um, really learned a lot about management at HP. And I one day I had no plans to leave HP, but one day this is in the old days, I was actually looking at the Wall Street Journal, and they actually had ads in the Wall Street Journal
Wow.
for different positions. And at the time, they were advertising the position for the CEO of Humane Society Silicon Valley. And I'm a huge animal lover, huge animal lover. I knew I would never get the job because I didn't have a nonprofit background, and I didn't have a veterinary background. But I just wanted to have an interview because I wanted to find out what they needed.
Sure.
And so I applied and didn't hear anything for 4 months, and finally got a call, and you know, I sort of out of the blue, and thought, what the heck, I'll go interview. And anyways, they offered me the job. I accepted the job without even knowing the salary
Oh, that's
because
awesome.
I just wanted to do it. And It was an amazing, amazing journey for 17 years, actually. When I started at the Humane Society, we were taking in 60,000 animals a year and euthanizing 40,000 of those animals.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And I choke up because it still really bothers me. But over the course of the time that I was there, we through partnerships with our cities, partnerships with our communities, we went from taking in 60,000 animals a year down to 18,000, and from euthanizing 40,000 down to 500.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, and we built a brand new facility, and it was, and I honestly, I felt good about that because I, made a real difference for the animals of Santa Clara County.
Can I ask you a question? Is the facility was that the animal, community center? Is that that one?
It is the Animal Community Center in Milpitas. Yes.
How about that?
Yes, it was at the time, it was the first of its kind in the country, and,
Wow.
it was designed as a place to really be a community center that, also had animals attached to it, and so, and it really made a difference for adoptions in our community. It really did.
Did you so one thing, I don't know if you know this, so I'm in Austin, and we have an organization, Austin Pets Alive, and apparently, I mean, can't verify it, but I've been told numerous times, and of course, I've been there a bunch of times, it's the largest non-kill shelter in the United States here in Austin,
Mhm, mhm.
which is really, I mean, I think the trend towards that is what everybody's trying to do, and obviously you were in the forefront of that. It's just kind of a great thing.
Right, right, and I think, also, it's a little bit of a misnomer talking about, quote, "no kill," because I think there are circumstances where it's warranted. You have an animal that is, there's no other medical choice for that animal,
Right,
right? Or from a behavioral standpoint, you get, this would happen, an animal in that had viciously attacked a child.
right. That's a big.
So there's reasons for that, but what you wanna make certain is that no adoptable animal is ever euthanized, right?
It's funny, I've never heard anybody say that before, but that's actually the right way to say it. That makes all the sense in the world. It really does.
Yeah, and the reason I get passionate about that is because that term "no kill" became sort of a dividing line. People would ask, "Do you euthanize animals at Humane Society Silicon Valley?" And yes, we do, and I would give the reasons, but people would say, "Well, I'm not gonna donate to you
Huh,
because I wanna give to a, quote, 'no kill shelter.'" Well, I can guarantee you they're doing the same thing, or they're passing the animals off to another shelter that will do the same thing. So,
right.
yeah.
Well, perception's reality, so some people you just don't know. I mean, I never thought about it, but that makes all the sense in the world. I get it totally. Doesn't mean you're still you're what's a good word for this? I don't know, but you're help me here. Your goal is not to euthanize animals, but occasionally there are special cases medically are just,
Or behaviorally,
behaviorally, exactly.
there's no appropriate choice.
Right.
And it's the right thing for that particular individual, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, but you don't, yeah, it's no adoptable animal that you wanna be euthanizing.
So, quick question, when you were at HP, did you ever make it up to, like, over there, do they have that facility, I think it's outside of Corvallis in Oregon?
Yes, yes, I did, actually.
I went to school in Corvallis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wonderful city. Yeah,
Well, they have a
lovely.
lot of engineers, so a lot of the HP does a lot of recruiting now. I wasn't an engineer by a long shot, but
Yeah.
they have it there. Yeah, it's a really nice city. So let's get back to so you're at the Humane Society. You've created, the new facility. Let's keep walking forward. So let's hear your story.
Yeah, so, I was there 17 years, and, I retired from HP or from the Humane Society. And after basically, about a year and a half, I recognized that I was really missing, being part of a team that was focused on good.
Right.
And it just so happened, I always find it fascinating how the universe kinda takes care of you. The position for the CEO position for, Guide Dogs for the Blind became available, and I did the same thing, not didn't think I'd ever get the job,
Right.
but I applied. I did get the job, and I had to move in order to do that. Was living 50 miles away and basically a 2-hour commute away from, Guide Dogs, so I decided to move, and, I've been here 11 years now, and it has been a complete honor to be, a part of this organization. One of the things that I learned at the Humane Society was the power of the human-animal bond.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and what you see at Guide Dogs is the human-animal bond on steroids. It's phenomenal, phenomenal to see the relationship between our clients and our guides and the difference that our guides can make in someone's life. It is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, all of us that listen and have seen that, we can kind of imagine it, but I don't think we have any perception whatsoever. You would have it more than us. Of course, you'd have to be in the person that was sight impaired that really would understand it. But I just can only imagine somebody in particular that can't get around very much, and then has a partner in life, basically the service dogs, and then opening up a whole so many different places, a new world for them, I would guess.
Well, that's really, what I say the mission of Guide Dogs is. It's really about, independence, confidence, companionship.
Right.
A guide dog, yes, what a guide dog does is help someone travel safely from point A to point B, but is so much more than just sort of a safe travel tool. A guide dog is a confidence builder. I mean, I am not visually impaired, but, I feel more confident when I have a dog by my side. I can't
Sure.
my dogs are not service dogs, but, if I can go to a Starbucks and sit there with my dog, I mean, I feel better.
Companionship, partnership,
Compan
all kinds of things.
Soulmate.
Right.
The other thing that people don't think about is that a guide dog is also a bridge to the community. And, sight loss is, very isolating because we as a society connect through sight. I see you across the room. I can nod at you. I can, wave to you. I can connect with you through sight. If I don't have sight, I can't do that. And so, it becomes very isolating. You have to have people come up to you. Now, if you're standing there with a cane, most people don't approach somebody with a cane. Um, I hope after listening to this, people will,
Yeah.
but oftentimes people don't. But if you stand there with a guide dog, people do. There's that commonality, right? People wanna talk to you because 'cause you've got a guide dog. One of our clients who I just love, what she says to me, she said, Chris, when I walk into the room, I am the most popular person there when I'm with my guide."
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. I wrote this down, and I think it's really poignant at exactly what you guys are doing. And can you expand upon it a bit? So basically, what I wrote was GDB, Guide Dogs for the Blind, improves mobility for our clients that can give them further inclusion. And that's kind of what we're talking about. Can you just expand upon it? Because I think it's a really poignant and really strong statement that we just don't think about when we've got our sight and can do whatever we do.
Exactly. And it goes back to a little bit of what I just said, that, again, without sight, it is hard to make connection. And so then it's oftentimes hard to feel included in something because
Right.
you are completely dependent upon other people having to make that connection with you because you can't make that connection through sight. But what a guide dog can do again is that bridge to the community. Everybody wants to talk with you, but also, part of inclusion is our own self confidence, right?
Right.
And, that is something that a guide dog gives, is that self-confidence. You've got your best friend by your side. You've got somebody next to you who is gonna help you, you know, not only get somewhere, but if you get lost, will help you find your way out of that as well,
Right.
you know? And that confidence also helps as part of, inclusion and feeling included and feeling a part of society, feeling a part of your community.
Well, that makes me think of, the saying outside looking in.
Mhm.
Okay, so first of all, they're outside not being able to look in, but when as a seeing person is outside looking in, you're not in the group. I'll bet you what you're saying, your point about the dog brings that gives them a reason to for other people to actually approach them and talk to them. You're outside not looking in, but you've got this dog that's actually introducing you to them because they're comfortable with dogs. That makes more sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if you're a dog owner, but,
I am,
if you yeah, well, if you go somewhere by yourself, usually people don't randomly talk to you.
especially me.
Okay, I'm not touching that one, Mark.
I'm
Um,
joking.
but, if you're walking down the street with your dog, people talk to you. "Oh my god, what a cute dog," or "Can I
Yeah,
pet your
exactly.
dog?" or "I've got a dog just like that," and all of a sudden, you're making all these friends, you know?
Well, I'm familiar with that having an animal podcast. If I tell people I have an animal podcast, I'm instantly everybody's best friend because everybody likes animals.
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's pretty funny. But let's go. I want to stay on track, but I want to go a little bit of history of guide dogs for the blind. When I was reading the stuff about, from I know World War II is really when it started, but a lot of it started with I think World War One with them being gassed in World War II and the dogs in Germany or Switzerland or something. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, so, the first guide dog school was actually started in 1923, so shortly after World War II.
World War One.
Or World War I, sorry, yes, yes. Shortly after World War One, and, from my understanding, it was started by a woman, yay,
Yeah,
who, really felt that, dogs could be of help to those men who were blinded during the war. From that sort of and she was, I think she was Swiss, but she started that first school in the United States.
right,
From that kernel, right, really other guide dog schools grew. So Guide Dogs for the Blind was started in 1942, and it was started as, a school that would, help World War II vets
right.
who were blinded in the war. Yes, and also started by a woman, by the
I was
way.
gonna say, I wanted to add that in there. You know what I love about this, and for you guys that are listening, you guys that are listening, because the women already know this, is that it seems to me when there's a real big movement, generally it's with a strong woman in the background, because American Woman Volunteer Services or something gave the money to them to get started or something like that.
Yes, yes, exactly right. Um, and the first guide dog trainers were military dog trainers,
Right.
right? Because that's the only place actually dogs were actually trained to work with people, was in the military.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Totally. And I think originally they were all German Shepherds. It's not so much all German Shepherds now, but it was originally German Shepherds, right?
It was originally German Shepherds, and Guide Dogs for the Blind used German Shepherds up until about 15 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I growing up, it makes sense because you see all the old war movies, all the German Shepherds are the ones that are in them.
Mhm.
But what I love about it, and and people, if you guys are listening, you should look into the American Women's Volunteer Services, which is not really relevant other than the fact they helped found them and everything they did, and then men started getting upset with them and blah blah blah, and they disbanded. But at one point, they had 325,000 women volunteers that were doing things. But moving forward, though, and it's crazy the history because I think it was with the mustard gas or something in World War I. But the fact that the women realized that these men coming back, they were injured from a variety of different injuries. To do that, built the now largest, at least in North America, service dog organization ever. Right?
Right. Yes.
Be careful with the way I say things, by the way. I know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the US right now, there are 11 certified schools, and I stress certification because and they're certified by the International Guide Dog Federation. And I stress certification because I think it's important that, schools comply with a set of standards with regards to, how dogs are trained, how clients are trained, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Um, there's a lot of other organizations out there that do this, but I think the certified schools are the ones that you want to focus on. But Guide Dogs for the Blind is the largest school in North America and the second largest in the world. And again, we started in 1942. We've got two campuses. Our headquarters is in San Rafael, California, which is just north of San Francisco. And we have a second training campus that trains dogs and clients, located just 25 miles southeast of Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, and so I have so many things. That again, I should have apologized early on. My head bounces all over the place, and hopefully I can stay on track because I got so many different things to talk to you about. Well, one of the things I read too is that even though it's organized now, there's all kinds of history of blind dogs helping humans. I mean, it goes back to like 12 AD or something. There's murals of that, but St. Francis of Assisi, all kinds of different history on this thing that I thought was really, again, kid in the candy shop. I started reading this stuff, and now to move forward, let's talk about all the programs. One of the things that, and it's just because you just don't think about it as much as you should, but I always think about service dogs, guide dogs for people that are sight impaired. Usually it's adults, but it starts with kids too. Can we start with kids and work our way up and talk about all the different programs you guys have?
Sure, sure. So just a little bit about maybe the
Yeah, that'd be great.
history, for lack of a better term, of blindness.
Yeah, yeah.
So pre 1990, there was a very, very high incidence of visual impairment and or blindness with children, and that was caused by incubators.
Really?
Yes. So we caused this high incidence of childness.
I've never heard of this ever.
Right. Yes. That incubators that were using pure oxygen. So these preemie babies that were born and put in incubators with pure oxygen actually, destroyed the retinas.
Really? I have never heard of that ever. That's crazy.
Yes, and so, we finally figured it out, in, the late '80s, early '90s, and so there's been a huge drop in the incidence of, childhood blindness. Doesn't mean that it went away, but a huge drop
Sure.
in that basically after 1990. Today, most people, basically are losing their sight as adults, and it's people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s for a whole variety of reasons. The average age of our client is actually 54, which gives you kind of an idea again
Sure.
that this is, primarily, not to say that, and we've got programs for kids as well, but blindness now is primarily an adult disease.
And what are the diseases? Like diabetes and things like that?
So there's all kinds of different things. So, one of the things that we're all familiar with older adults is macular degeneration.
Yeah.
And that is essentially the loss of central vision. Now, with macular degeneration, actually, it's very usable vision for a long time because you still have peripheral vision, and peripheral vision is what keeps you safe,
Right.
right? It keeps you from knocking into, the walls or, that sort of thing. There's also peripheral vision loss, which is from things like glaucoma or retinitis pigmentosa. And that's where you lose your peripheral vision. You have central vision, but that central vision starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's like looking through a straw.
Wow.
Most of our adult clients have retinitis pigmentosa,
Uh-huh.
RP. The fastest growing cause of blindness, though, is diabetes and diabetic retinopathy. And this is actually scary because so many people now, and it doesn't matter if you're type 1 or type 2,
Mm-hmm.
diabetes does eventually cause vision loss. And so many kids now are diabetic.
And is that because of diet or is it genetic or what is it a combination of both, I guess?
It's probably a combination of both, although when you start to see, what do they call it? The widening of America, or the, we're all getting bigger, right?
The politically big that's a political way of saying
Yeah.
it.
And you see this a lot with young children too that are very overweight. That causes diabetes.
Yeah.
So we see this big wave coming because of this huge incidence in diabetes.
So your average age is 54, and with the widening of America or whatever we wanna call it, you're now seeing a younger generation, so that number is gonna start going down then, I would assume, right?
We anticipate that happening, yes.
And when you say anticipate, what do you how long is that, do you think? Do you have a rough idea what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think we're probably gonna see the impact of that sort of hitting our doors sometime in the next probably 10 years, 10 to 15 years.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it is, because it's preventable.
Yeah, self-imposed.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back. We are supported by PrepVet, providing stem cell therapy for pets.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at prepvet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
So now if I'm a 50-year-old person that's lost my eyesight or losing my eyesight, how does it work? First of all, let's talk about first of all, everybody that's listening here, you have to understand, you guys are not government funded whatsoever. It's completely by volunteers that are donors that are giving money to that. And what the even crazier thing is, I'm going to sell for you here, by the way, Chris. Anyways,
Thank
the
you.
crazy thing is you guys pay for their training, you assist them in veterinary and stuff. Can you go through all that and then let's again? You probably have a better you're organized because I know you were a controller and all that. So I apologize right away. But can we talk a little bit about everything that you provide because it's basically cost free for the most part or at extreme discount. So let's talk about that and again whatever else you want to talk about. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, and I appreciate you asking that Mark, because yes, all of our services are free. And that's a basic philosophy from Guide Dogs for the Blind, because we want to make certain that our services are available to those who need it, not just those who can pay for it. And so, what does that entail? So, from the client perspective, it actually starts with a home interview. So, and our clients come from all over North America, all over Canada, all over the US, because it's important for us to understand, for somebody who's applying for a guide dog, what do you do on a daily basis, and what does your environment look like? So if somebody's working in downtown Manhattan, that's a really different dog than somebody who is, living in the suburbs of San Rafael here,
Or Des Moines, Iowa. Yeah, exactly.
or a guy in Iowa,
Right.
right? So it's because we match, every client is matched specifically to, a dog that can meet their specific needs. So it starts with, a home interview. Then from the client perspective, I mean, we put 2 years of training into every single one of our dogs. Our dogs All of our dogs are purpose bred. About 800 puppies are bred every year on our San Rafael campus.
Hey, Chris, let me interrupt you real quick because we're right there. You were talking about your puppies. Can you address puppy raisers on that too? Because I know you guys are always looking for them, so we can integrate that in your direction you're going. Because I
Absolutely.
think that's a really important thing to bring up.
Yes, yes. So 800 puppies are born every year on our campus. We start socializing our puppies at 5 days of age,
Wow.
and that continues, in a biosecure environment, until the puppies are 8 to 10 weeks of age. And then they go to our puppy raisers. And we have puppy raisers in the 9 western states, and puppy raisers are volunteers. They're absolutely critical to the guide dog process, because without puppy raisers, we don't have the dogs of guide dogs for the blind, right?
Right. So what is define what a puppy raiser is other than getting a puppy? Because obviously they're training them or doing something. So get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So, raising a guide dog puppy it's very prescriptive. In general, if you're interested in, becoming a puppy raiser, we will train you in, being a puppy raiser and everything that's involved in training in taking on a puppy. Our puppy raisers are organized into puppy clubs, so you have a whole club structure around you that helps support you in the raising of that puppy, even to the standpoint of, gee, I'm going away for the weekend. We can't take the puppy that we're raising. We have puppy sitters within the club,
Wow.
people who will take the dog while you're on vacation, or whatever, for a reason that you can't raise. You can also do things like co-raise, which means I'm not certain I can commit to, an entire 14 months with this dog, but, maybe I can do 3 months, or maybe I can do 4 months. I mean, we've got all different types of models that one can do, but I think the important thing is, yes, it's very prescriptive, it's fun, it's easy. There's a whole team of people there who are there to help you.
And those dogs now are pretty much labs and like golden doodles and a bunch of things like that. Retrievers.
No, no golden doodles. They're, Labrador retrievers, golden retrievers, and then we do have a cross between a lab and a golden.
So what's that called? A golden lab? What is that? I don't know. I can't keep up with all the names.
I know, I know. So it's even more boring than that. It's called a cross.
No, that's one I can remember.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. But puppy raisers are absolutely critical, because at 8 to 10 weeks of age, all of those 800 puppies a year go out to those puppy raisers who raise those puppies for approximately 14 months. And then those dogs come back to our campus, one of our campuses where over a 3-month period of time, they gain their guide dog skills and then are also trained to the very specific needs of our clients. We pay for bringing our clients out to one of our campuses. Our clients live with us for 2 weeks while they train. We pay for sending our client and now their guide dog back home. We pay for the veterinary care for our dogs over the life of that guide dog because we want to ensure that our dogs receive the best veterinary care possible so that they can continue to guide for as long as possible. And we also follow up with our clients on a regular basis to ensure that that team is successful. So it's not just getting the team over the line to graduation, it's making certain that they can be successful together for the next 8 to 9 years.
Right.
So all of that is free. It's free to our clients, but we rely solely on community support, the support of donors, to be able to provide those services.
Is there what's the youngest age typically that a child or I guess young adult, maybe even what age do they actually start getting? I mean, what you guys are normally providing dog for somebody?
Yeah, so 16,
Okay.
and the reason is that this is a team, this is a partnership.
Right.
So the child has to be old enough to completely take care of the dog.
Sure.
And, that means feeding it, relieving it, making certain that, the team is out working every single day together, taking the dog to the vet. Because if mom and dad are doing that, then that partnership isn't as strong. And the only way that partnership really works is to have it be strong. We do have a program called Canine Buddies for individuals that are, less than 16 years of age, and that's a, well-trained companion dog that for individuals. Actually, we also do Canine Buddies for adults, but for children, so any child who is visually impaired from 5 years and above, we can also provide a canine buddy, which also we also take care of the veterinary costs for our canine buddies. But what a canine buddy does for a child, in many respects, is very similar.
Uh-huh.
It's a confidence builder. It's a bridge to the community. Oftentimes, kids that are visually impaired have difficulty making friends. And now you are the coolest kid on the block
Right. I love
because
that.
you've got this really great dog. And so everybody wants to be your friend, and we have, oh my God. And I apologize if I cry at this stuff, but because I do,
It's emotional.
but we have, parents who will tell us that, my child would wake up nightly with nightmares,
Right.
right? Because again, visually impaired sight, not certain where he is, and, just constantly stressed. Now with their canine buddy who sleeps on the bed with them, sleeps completely through the night,
Oh, that's so awesome.
is doing great. Oh,
So awesome.
anyways, I cry at this stuff. Kids who, refuse to get dressed by themselves or even go into the restroom by themselves now are, wanting to be independent, right? Because they've got their canine buddy by their side. So it is pretty remarkable.
It's one of the things I'm thinking about now too. So if I end up, whatever age I am, and I now have my teammate, basically, or my partner or soulmate or whatever, and because dogs live, 8 to 12 years, do you guys have therapy for the people that their dog? That must be really difficult too.
We actually do.
I figured.
So we have a wonderful gentleman on staff who is also a guide dog user.
Hmm.
He has a PhD in psychotherapy, and he provides psychosocial support for our clients around a number of things. Anywhere from losing your sight is there's a tremendous amount of grief involved with that,
Oh, yeah.
and so helping people get through that grief so that once they can get to the other side of that, then they can take action, right? And do something about it.
Well, plus insecurity too, because all of a sudden you've lost, the one of your senses.
Absolutely. He also helps with that very difficult decision about retiring a guide dog,
Yeah.
and that is hard for our clients, and most of our clients are able to keep their retired guide dog even when they get a new guide dog.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but it also means that ultimately at some point there's a decision to made to, have to
Cross over the rainbow bridge, yeah.
say goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of our dogs, again, our dogs are purpose bred. We have a geneticist that is, part of our staff. Our dogs, are different than what you're gonna find in sort of the local lab and golden retriever community. They're much healthier, they live longer. So our dogs are living to, 14, 15, sometimes 16 years of age.
Oh, wow.
But it's always hard to say goodbye. So
Well, the thing is, I mean, I'm just thinking, again, with limited knowledge, but as a pet owner, when you have to make the decision for your pet, that's really hard. But when you look at when you've got this dog that's actually your eyes and your partner and with you all the time, I can only imagine how hard that is to separate that at some point.
it is phenomenally hard.
Yeah,
And again, I cry at this stuff because, I'm close to my own personal dogs, and I know how hard it is when I lose one of my dogs.
right.
But yes, a guide dog is often closer to his partner than that partner is to his own family.
As humans, yeah.
Because again, 24/7, that companionship that
Security, confidence. I mean, I can think of a gazillion words that would go with that. I know.
yes. Yeah, it is very hard, and we acknowledge that when our clients come back for another guide dog. So, one of the things that we do for those clients who come into class and have either had to retire a guide dog, or they lost, their previous guide dog. We actually have a blessing ceremony that we do. Oh, now you're gonna make me cry.
I'm sorry.
And what that blessing ceremony is, whew, be able to bless that guide dog, that, was so important in that person's life,
Right.
and to open up their heart to now the next guide dog that will be coming into their life.
Yes, what an amazing thing. One of the things I do want to get into is a little bit lighter subject, but it's one that really makes me frustrated and angry that I've read a little bit about, and I know you're going to know a lot more, is the access barriers, like some of this Uber stuff and all that. Can you talk about that too? Which I'm just blown away by people sometimes, that people are just not always cognizant of the real world, or just aware of the kindness that they could give.
Yeah.
That'll lead you into where I feel about it. But anyways.
Well, and I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you so much. I think one of the biggest challenges right now and I'm gonna say, honestly, it probably started, about 10 years ago with this plethora of people who wanted to pass off their own personal dogs as a service dog.
Right. Well, that I wanted to get in. I'm glad you brought that up because that's another thing that frustrates me. But go on.
Well, it is frustrating because, a good example is, our dogs have 2 years of training before they go out really into the world as a guide dog, which means that they're bomb proof. They can, be on a plane or a train or in a restaurant in crowded spaces. I mean, but our own personal dogs don't have that kind of training and have a tendency, and because they're scared, some of them will act out. And because of all of these things that have been happening over the years, that has put a lot of pressure on legitimate guide dog users.
Yep.
legitimate service dog users. And so our clients now face all of these barriers and just trying to live their life. A good example is Uber and Lyft. There's greater than a 50% chance, it's probably more like a 75% chance that if you're a guide dog user, you call, you have to get somewhere, you call Uber, the driver comes, the driver will either turn you down, although that's against the law because
Right.
ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, by law, a service dog is allowed to go everywhere that a person is allowed to go. But, our clients over and over again say that they oftentimes have to call 2 to 3 to 4 times before they get a driver who will take them.
I understand the reason why they could be afraid of dogs, but generally it's because they don't want dog hair in their car, I'm guessing.
They don't want dogs in their car,
Right.
but I just wanna stress, it's against the law.
It's against the law, and by the way, it's just wrong. I mean, forget the law
And
thing.
it's just wrong. It is just wrong,
Yeah,
and our dogs are trained to be on the floor of the car, so it's not like they're sitting up on the seat or any of that, but
right.
yeah, so you can only imagine how frustrating that is if you have to get to a doctor's appointment, you have to make a plane, you have to get to work.
Forget that. No, pause that for a second. It's way more than that. It's just you've got to, and that this is probably not the proper way to. You have a handicap. It's hard enough for you to get around, and the fact that now all of a sudden people are ignoring you, and they're probably from a distance see a dog and a cane. They go, "Forget this. I'm going to pick them up. I'll get a fine or whatever, but I'm not going to pick them up." It's just wrong, and you shouldn't have these people that it's not their fault that they're whatever disability they have. The fact that they do it just really, can you tell I get angry? But
No, 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 and it just, it makes it hard for people,
it's wrong.
it is wrong. It is absolutely wrong, and it's hard to get the attention of, these large corporations.
Hey, let me ask you a question. On the same subject, because nobody really uses taxis anymore. Was that an issue with taxis before, or is it just really the Uber? I'm guessing the Uber thing is a bigger deal because it's private cars, even though the taxis sometimes own it. I'll bet it's. Is that right? Am I right or wrong on that?
You are correct on that.
Yeah.
You are
Oh,
correct, and
that's interesting.
and, the Uber drivers are contract employees,
Right.
and that's what Uber and Lyft hide behind. These are contract employees. We can't really do anything about that.
There's another thing I read, and I should have read deeper on this, but it seems to me when one of the things when I was doing my homework for this thing was what's weird about it that is it the VAs that doesn't want people bringing dogs in? Is there some kind of weird thing with the VAs and animals? Or am I wrong on this?
I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that with the VA. Yeah, we have a number of veterans who are guide dog users and utilize the services of the VA. So I'm not aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I read something, because I was digging around and doing my crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, it was some article about the barriers and how even though it's the law, these random places that you would think would be no problem at all. And I may be wrong, so I apologize to anybody at the VA, but it seemed to me I read something about they're very selective in letting dogs go in, and it may not have been the VA, it could have been something else, but it was all these weird places that you would think would be great that aren't.
Well, I'll tell you one that, surprised me, and it's actually a carve out in ADA, is churches.
Maybe that I it was yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy. Service dogs are not don't have a pass to go into a religious organization or a church. And that's which I think is terrible.
Well,
But it was a carve out in ADA. Yeah. So you have to get you just have to get specific permission from your own church to be able to bring your guide dog in. And some churches allow it, some churches do not, surprisingly.
I'm wondering again, is the people taking advantage of I think the whole service dog thing really it to some level, I would blame the airlines on this because having traveled with dogs, you really don't want your dogs underneath. But regardless of that, if you do put your dogs underneath, the ticket's almost as much as you flying when they just put them in there versus, $50 for a bag or $25 for a bag. So I think a lot of people started saying this to my service dogs so they can put them on the plane, sit in the seat so they don't have to pay for that ticket.
Oh, absolutely. Um, the law's been tightened now.
I know, but you can't bring an ostrich now. I know they've been peacocks and all kinds of weird.
Right. Yeah, people really pushing the limits on that. But still, even legitimate service dogs are getting pushback from airlines. And, we get phone calls oftentimes from, a client who's literally at the gate and the gate agent won't allow them onto the flight. And, we have to put them on the gate agent on the line, with one of our staff to sort of read them the law
Right.
that says.
I think one of the things I know, and again, you're going to know this better than me, but I think part of the deal is you have to make sure you let them know when you have your ticket, you're traveling with a service dog.
Yes.
And part of that reason is they can only have so many on the plane because there is an oxygen limit that, the more bodies are on there, not just animals, but humans and bodies, there's part of that. And they can only let two, I think 2 to 4, I think per plane or something like that. Right. I think I don't, the number doesn't matter, but I know it's limited.
Yeah, I'm not a I think honestly think it's limited for, bringing your pet dog on, so you're allowed to bring your pet dog on if it can fit in a carrier underneath the seat.
Okay.
Those are limited.
But the service dogs aren't? You can have as many on the.
Service dogs are not limited.
Okay, then yeah, okay.
Yeah, but you are correct. There is paperwork that has to be filled out, actually before you get on the plane, and has to be registered with the airline. Yeah.
I guess the reason why I do is my daughter has a little tiny rat dog, and she, it's in a carrier like a cat carrier, and you can put her under the seat. And I think even when she traveled with it, they would only let 2 people or something per plane, or I can't remember what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I think with pet dogs, that's exactly right. Yes.
Okay, so I'm crossing pet dogs that are not service dogs. So, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back. I know you have a tight schedule, so let's talk about funding for you guys, what you guys do to get donors, all the different programs you have for people who are listening so they can help you guys get the money. I mean, I could talk to you for days, but I know you have a schedule. So let's get into that. Tell people how they can help you guys out, where they can find you, all that, all the important stuff.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. As I mentioned earlier, we're completely funded through donation. We receive no government support at all, which actually at this point in time is a good thing.
These days in particular. I'm not going to go there, but I know exactly where you're at.
Yeah. So, I mean, if somebody is moved by, what they hear today and want to support our mission, you can go to our website, which is at guidedogs.com. So one word, guidedogs.com. There's a whole variety of ways that you can support our mission. You can, support with a one-time donation, a monthly donation. You can leave us in your will. We have many supporters of ours who have chosen to let us know that we are in their will, and a bequest is a way to ensure the future of the organization because that's a gift that will be coming in the future. If you want to talk to somebody at Guide Dogs about a gift or how it can be applied, you can also do that through the website and somebody will get back to you. We're very grateful and for anybody who believes in this mission and wants to support it.
What I know, and let's bring up puppy raisers again, and also what kind of volunteer work you guys have too, because I'm sure there are people that may not have the funds but have the time and have the big hearts.
So, just to kind of put volunteerism in perspective,
Okay.
Guide Dogs for the Blind has 300 staff and 4,000 volunteers. So,
Wow.
volunteers are critically important
Yeah.
to the execution of this mission. And if you live locally to one of our facilities, there's a whole host of campus volunteer opportunities. Anything from, walking dogs, socializing puppies, cuddling puppies, bathing dogs, working inside our we actually have people who work and help our veterinary clinics. If you're interested in working with our clients, there's a whole host of opportunities on our campuses to serve food, drive our clients to and from airports. We actually have volunteers who do dog distraction. So bring your own dog onto campus, and it's great for training for our dogs to see something other than a lab or a golden retriever, to know that there's other kinds of dogs out there.
Yeah.
Like, I have a basset hound that does dog distraction because he looks different.
Well, Basset Hounds like to talk, so I'm sure.
Yep, yep. And we have, as I said, we need puppy raisers in the 9 western states as far east as Texas. Puppy raisers really are critical, absolutely critical to what we do. They're the heart of the organization.
We're in Texas.
We're all over Texas. Yeah, we've got 7 or 8 different clubs all over Texas. Yeah.
So is there one in Austin? I have a lot of people in Austin listen to
Yep. Austin, Dallas, Houston,
San Antonio.
San Antonio. Yep.
We're a tiny little state.
Yeah, you guys are a big state, big state.
Here's the crazy thing. When I moved to Austin, I moved from California, from the LA area. If I drive to LA today, halfway is in El Paso, Texas.
You gotta be kidding me. Really?
No, yeah. So then I got to go through New Mexico, Arizona, and California, but halfway is El Paso, Texas.
Wow, that is an interesting fun fact.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know a bunch of weird stuff.
That is interesting. That actually does put, Texas in perspective of how big it is.
It's really crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. Yeah.
So, what else have we missed? And then we're going to get to. I know you really want to hear this joke I'm going to tell, but is there anything else that we've left out that you want to get to? Because since I got you on the phone, I really want to get into whatever else we can cover. While I've got you here, Chris.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you asking that. There is one other thing I would love to tell you and your listeners about, and that's that, our third program that we offer at Guide Dogs for the Blind, which is orientation and mobility. And the reason that we started this program 7 years ago is because, first, I should just say that in order to use a guide dog, you have to be able to orient yourself within your environment as somebody without sight. And you already have to know how to get from point A to point B. Your guide dog will take you there safely, but you have to have those skills.
I've got a quick question, real quickly. What it just came to my mind. So, as you said, it's older people right now, and it's going to come down. But when you're looking at somebody that, and I guess it's a gradual, their eyes start going gradually. I really don't know that, and maybe you can address that too. But as they're doing that, at what point are they? I know we're going to get into the skills. At one point, are they actually, aside from having the ability to do that, at what point do they actually have the skills to start navigating? Does that take a long time? I'm sure it varies per person, obviously, but yeah.
Sure. No, no, no. When you lose your sight, and for some people it's gradual, for some people it's very quick.
Oh wow.
Literally, I have a board member who woke up one morning and couldn't see.
Wow.
So for him, it was very quick. But essentially, the skills that you have to learn, as- arcane skills. You've seen people without sight using a cane. They're tapping. They're exploring their environment with a cane. those are sort of the basic orientation and mobility skills that one needs to learn. We are able to teach those skills in a 1-week intensive period of time. So it's an intensive class. It's a one-on-one with an individual over a 1-week period of time. And then that person has to practice. In order to get good, you have to practice.
And have confidence.
But the sad thing or the worrisome thing is if you are over the age of 40 and you lose your sight, it's next to impossible to be able to get those skills in your local environment because whether that's the federal government, state government, county government, those entities are disinvesting in being able to provide these kinds of services.
I don't want to get into something political because it's too easy to do these days. But are you finding, and I know you guys are all like, as we mentioned earlier, that you're not funded by the government. Are you finding now with the, and I, again, this is not political by any means, just more out of curiosity, are even some of the limited resources they have now, is that even becoming more with some of these organizations that they're just shutting down and that kind of thing?
It is. As a matter of fact, one of the we have a very large organization in our community here in San Francisco, and in fact, it is the largest organization that teaches life skills for people who are blind or visually impaired.
Uh-huh.
And that includes those basic orientation and mobility skills. They're having to lay off 30% of their staff. So that's putting even more pressure on Guide Dogs for the Blind to be able to provide this sort of pre-guide dogs class because you can't use a guide dog unless you have those skills. So, GDB has invested in being able to provide these basic orientation and mobility skills for clients who eventually then will come back and get a guide dog.
And as you said, more, we're finding younger kids now are probably going to do it. The age is going to go down. God, what is the solution? And I know we don't have an answer for that, but what a horrible thing. It's just terrible.
It is. It absolutely is. And I think your question is an excellent one. This is not heading in the right direction, you know?
Right.
And what is the solution? And again, more and more, I mean, if you have the money to pay for it, okay, but a lot of people don't. And it is it is scary. Yes.
Well, when we talked offline, you're originally from Vegas, and and I think we got into it, but weren't able to record that part. Vegas has got roughly 2 million people, and how many people do they have there to help anybody that's blind to train them the skills
They have one person
for the entire city?
for the entire city of 2 million people. So again, what do you think your chances are of being able to get quality time from an individual to train you in these skills? Probably 0 to none, right?
Yeah,
So we have people coming actually from all over the US, applying to us or, I mean, again, our services are free
right.
to obtain these skills. I have a wonderful story. There was a woman, this is about 5 years ago, from Kansas City. She was in her 70s. She had lost her sight in her 50s, was never able to get, any real training on her orientation mobility skills. She trained herself using YouTube,
Wow.
but as a result, her life was very narrowly defined. Her biggest wish was to go to Paris. She always wanted to go to Paris. She came into our program to learn her orientation and mobility skills, spent a week with us. 6 months later, came back and got a guide dog. 6 months after that, went to Paris.
Oh, that's so awesome.
I know, it makes me cry.
So awesome. Hey, you know what? I just was thinking of this, and I'm going to give a little uh, sneak preview. I've been reaching out. Have you done anything? Are they looking at? I personally would rather have a live one, but the robotic dogs that there's a bunch of there's a bunch of studies out there now, and the ones that really look like whatever what was it, the Roger or whatever the name of that
Right.
one dog was in the cartoon, but that they're training these dogs to to actually really walk. It's like it looks like a dog, but it's all metal.
Right.
And what they found is, especially for senior citizens that aren't really capable of taking care of an animal, they're still getting that companionship from these robotic dogs. Are they doing something in your space as well? Do you know anything about that? I'm sure you probably do.
Yes, there actually are, robotic they are developing a robotic dog. It looks very, sort of outer space alien
Right.
type of a dog, right?
The Jetsons, that's what it was on. I just remember.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be a guide dog, actually. And we will get there eventually with that technology. The technology's not quite there yet. I shouldn't say not I mean, it's really not there yet. The robotic dogs don't have the capability of a real dog yet,
Right.
but at some point, the technology will get there. And what's great about that is that it expands the number, of people who can be served, right?
I like that idea. I would want a real thing, but I mean, I get it. I mean, I totally get it, especially and the senior citizen thing to me makes all the sense in the world if they're not physically capable, but to have somebody around,
Right.
regardless of it is, and it, probably hums or growls and does all kinds of weird stuff. But I was just wondering, just as I told you, my mind goes all kinds of weird places, but
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
I can see that happening. So what else are we missing at the end? I want to make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you. Events you guys have, and I know we talked about volunteers earlier, but anything else that you can think of for people to get a hold of you, or anything that may have left out? Can you think of anything?
Sure. So I'll just repeat our website, which is guidedogs.com. I'll also repeat that, we don't charge for our services and we receive no government funding. So we rely completely on the support of individuals. And I'm hoping that people will be inspired to support our mission. And you can go onto our website to do that. On our website are also listed all of our events. If you are local to one of our campuses, either near Portland or near San Francisco, every other Saturday we have a graduation. Those are free. It's wonderful to come. The other thing that we do is once a quarter, it's called Conversations with Chris. That's me. We do a deep dive into a topic at Guide Dogs for the Blind. It might be training, it might be breeding, it might be orientation mobility, but it's all really, really fascinating. And those are listed on the website, and you can tune in virtually to those. So you can certainly attend if you're local, but if you're not local, you can tune in virtually, and it's a great way to spend an hour.
Hey, I've just got my conversation with Chris, my private one.
All right, yes, you did.
Cool. Okay. And for everybody listening, just go to the description. I'm going to have all the links on there as well. So we come to that time, which I've been forewarning you, Chris, forever, of my silly joke.
I'm waiting.
Oh, no, you're not. You would trust me. You're going to wish I hadn't. But for everybody else that's listening out there, as I always say, I know you guys that listen regularly, you know this, and you're probably cringing. But if you want your kids, your grandkids, you want to be on the show, nieces, nephews, whatever, and they've got a joke, I promise you, I get back to everybody at my email, mkyle@forrealpodcast.com. And I really, really would encourage you to do it. One, so you don't have to hear the pain of me telling a joke. And two, is I'm sure yours will be better. So, anyways, here we go. So, Chris, did you hear about the service dog that walked into the coffee shop with his human?
I have not, Mark.
Well, the barista said to you, "What can I get for you?" And the dog replied, "A latte for my human and maybe a puppuccino for me." I told you. I forewarned you. I told
I
you
thought
about
that
it.
was a great joke.
Yeah. Well, thank you, because you're one of the very few. I can tell you that. So you can only imagine in my house how my kids cringe. But anyway, roll their eyes.
I get it. I get that one. Yeah.
Well, anyways, Chris, you guys are doing wonderful things. I know you're extremely busy, and the fact that we got a private conversations with Chris on this thing, I just want to tell you really seriously, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
What a pleasure, Mark. Thank you. I truly appreciate your interest in our mission.
And everybody else out there, one thing that I thought about that I didn't do as I'm saying goodbye to you guys, but one thing too is if you are in that area and you can go to those things, I think one of the important things for all of us is to have a better awareness of people that have disabilities. And I think if you go to things like that, or even you go to the website and you can learn some of this stuff, one, it'll probably make you a better citizen, but it'll also make you appreciate everything that these guys are going through. So I would highly recommend, and unfortunately I don't live that close to it, but if I did, I would for sure. But most importantly, other than that, is for everybody else out there, keep listening, keep following. Please pass the word. You guys are the ones that make me get these great guests like Chris. But it's really, really important for all you things. But really, from me, really from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening. For real.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.